going back to Leinster, it was obviously something you kind of wanted to do. You wanted to make your imprint on the Irish team if you could. We'll get on to Joe Schmidt, who you say at one point that you unashamedly, I can say, I loved everything about him. It's Cheika that you first work under, which is a less straightforward relationship.
Yeah. No, like Cheika came along and utterly transformed Leinster.
Yeah.
Really gave him a hard edge. But I think he had a good side and a bad side. And if you were on one, if you're lucky enough, you're on his good side. And if you weren't, well, he might as well have been in Siberia. I found it virtually impossible to get back in his good books.
Once you made a mistake in a match.
Once I made a mistake in the match, yeah.
His opinion of you firmly went into, don't want this guy.
That's the way it seemed, yes. I didn't really get a look in after that.
Yeah, for a long time, really.
Yeah. Well, no, I played a fair bit, but it was here and there, whereas when I was the Harlequins, I was 80 minutes every week.
One small gesture or moment in the book sort of stood out to me. Paul O'Connell, when you're down playing against Munster, I think it was.
Yeah.
Must have been against Munster, obviously. And it's just you're not even sure if you're interpreting it right.
Yeah, it's weird. It just stuck with me. It's kind of funny how it just stuck with me. And I've known Paulie quite well since.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I was there. I wasn't on the bench. I was cover subbing, so I was holding tackle bags, and I was just like, we're walking back in the tunnel, and he just walks past and squeezes my shoulder and walks on, and maybe it was just saying hello. How are you, Rossi? But I don't know. It just kind of stuck with me. It
felt maybe a touch more loaded than that. A hang in there, maybe.
Yeah, maybe it was, but. Probably doesn't even remember it.
Yeah. Joe Schmidt comes along and you have your first sit-down meeting with Joe, and this is, people will remember the game, the semi-final before that in France. The scrum had been in a bad way, the Leinster scrum.
Yeah.
And you sit down and you're intent on letting Joe Schmidt know that you're the man to hold up that scrum. You're his guy, and you let him know that. Tell us about the first meeting and your impressions of Schmidt when he first arrived.
It's like after Cheika, who was quite could be a loud and boisterous character. Joe seemed like quite quiet and reserved, and no, we hadn't seen what was lying underneath there yet, but he seemed like he might be a softer touch than Cheik's, but as we were soon discovered, that wasn't the case at all. And like basically sat me down and asked, what do you bring to the team? And I was kind of, presumable, you're the coach, you should know what I bring to the team, but okay. So
I'll play your game.
Yeah. So I just need to set my stall out, and my main point of difference I had over the props was my scrummaging. So that's what I put out there, and so now I said, all right, but I need more from you. So, and he demanded more from us, and he demanded more from me, but at the same time, like I tell the story in the book where we're in a team meeting. And a winger scores a try.
Yeah, nothing to do with you.
Nothing to do with me, right? And he turns around and goes, that was your man. I'm like looking at him going, what? Joe, he's a bit quicker than I am.
Yeah.
But then he rewinds the tape and he says, look, you're ahead of him here. If you started running here when he got the ball, you'd have been in a position to catch him. It's not a question of him being quicker than you.
Smarter, harder, earlier.
Yeah.
That's the mantra. It's one of the Joe Schmidt mantras.
Yeah.
You do say at one point in this book, the next time you see him, he'll say, Rossi, are you giving away my secrets?
Yeah. So I haven't seen him yet, but Joe, he's probably one of the most obsessed and driven men I've met about rugby.
You say he's the hardest worker you've ever observed in my life in rugby. That's what you say.
Yeah, because
there's a lot of alpha males in there. There's a lot of hard workers, a lot of obsessives in that world, and he's still top of that bunch. So it's a big statement.
I don't know if he switches off, to be honest. He used to live nearby me. He still lives quite close to me, and his wife and my wife are friends. So occasionally he'd pop around to the house, and guaranteed he'd be in the den watching some games.
Really?
Yeah. So I think that's good from the Irish perspective. So if you're a player, Joe has watched you play. And he's dissected what you've done, and as it's not like he hasn't given you the respect of watching you play before he makes up his mind.
Yeah, I heard Johnny Sexton speaking recently, and he was saying, different coaches have different strengths. One of the things about Schmidt is that he's actually good at everything. Some coaches are great man managers and inspirational. Others are great tacticians. Others are great delegators and director of rugby types. He said Schmidt can do everything really, really well.
Yeah, no, at the same time, there's guys who probably wouldn't be Joe's biggest fans. But, like, you know, that's the case with every coach.
Yeah.
But certainly, yeah, I mean, Joe, he's good at man management, he's good at tactics. If, like, if you're going to go and have an argument with him, you better come prepared. If you're going to say something to him, you better have something to back it up, because he'll ask for it and he'll look for it and he'll know it off the top of his head.
Okay.
I mean, I think he was getting a bit of sick 1 Nations about the Ireland were kicking too much, and he challenged the journalist who said that, saying, do you know how often we're kicking? And of course the guy didn't have the stats to hand. Well, of course Joe had them to hand. So, as I was saying, if you come at the king, you best not miss. So,
and would you often challenge him over tactics or things that were going on?
Oh God, no. No. I kind of stayed in my lane. But like, so if he listened to my input around the scrum.
Sure.
But I usually go to Greg Feek first if I had concerns, and then Feek would transmit that. You know, but
and in the main, then I presume lads didn't overly get into defending themselves too strongly in the video room because they knew Joe would have the answers, or did they?
If generally, if he's coming at you, he has the evidence in front of him. Okay. Now, you might say, well, the reason I did that is X, Y, and Z. And as long as he understood your reasoning, he mightn't be as harsh. But if you just, like for a stupid penalty, if you just leant over and slapped the ball off a scrum half stand, for instance, no reason to do it, just dumb, then he'd have no time for it.
That's big trouble. And what about his man management then? In what way would he have managed you as a person and got the best out of you as a person?
He's just very clear what he expects and what he wants you to deliver. And, you know, if he delivered that, you get picked. That's the way it was for me. You know, if as long as I delivered X, Y, and Z, and he'd pick me. If I didn't, he wouldn't. So I think once you have that clarity, then it makes your job a lot easier. You're not, you know, wondering if your face doesn't fit or if there's some other motive. But if he has, like, he always wanted me to, you know, keep my feet alive in the defensive line, be accurate, my ruck clean out, you know, keep scanning in defence, you know, get my side up or get my angles in the scrum, give him a platform to play from. And as long as I achieved all those markers, then he was reasonably happy.
Yeah, you give some lovely snippets in the book, and we're talking about Mike Ross's book, Dark Arts, and they're just small, tiny things, but I remember, you know, you get a slight grin as you're reading them almost, like for Claremont away, where he knows it's going to be incredibly noisy. Yeah. I remember Declan Kidney famously played loud crowd sounds over Munster training to try and get them used to it. And Schmidt, kind of the genius that he is, went completely the other way. So in your defensive session, it had to be done in total silence, utter silence. You say like the defensive session is usually the noisiest session because it's all about communication. Yeah. And actually Schmidt took that away from you on the assumption you wouldn't be able to hear each other. So you have this totally silent session. And it's so simple and yet brilliant and clever and, you know, very effective as well, I'm sure. Yeah, we started cheating and clapping so players didn't know where we are. But like we weren't speaking, so there was that. But it was quite inventive because you started relying a lot more on your vision and scanning and now you could still hear the guys around, you know, but they might be 10 feet from you instead of 20 feet from you that you could hear them. Yeah. So. Yeah, that was. I think, I don't know if he still does it, but it really does cause you to focus on your vision and keep your head in a swivel. And on the whole, if you had to boil it down, it seems he just got everyone moving faster, thinking faster, being sharper. And even then, I think particularly you say after that New Zealand defeat, that famous defeat at the Aviva. What game was that? Game didn't happen. Yeah, skill under pressure and your skill set under fatigue, actually. Fatigue is the key thing. Because that came right at the end of the game. So, in short, he seemed he'd wreck you all physically and then make you do a skill session. Yes, and that, like, one of my least favourite parts of it was he would run you between. He called it he'd drag a big one of those big tackle bags in different areas of the pitch, and you have to run between them with doing your defensive sets. You know, he might do that for 3 or 4 minutes, or he'd what's the longest number of phases any international team has gone to and how many minutes ball and play was that, and then he'd do that. So, like, I don't know, do you know what 4.5 minutes ball and play is like? I'd say it's tiring. Yeah, it's tiring. Especially for the 18%ers, as you call the forwards. Yeah, well,
I'd be so lucky to tell me that.
It's a body fat reference. So Schmidt, you love. I mean, Matt O'Connor was here and gone very quickly. You certainly paint a scene of where he gave you a proper dressing down in his office in his second season. That was one of those things where it didn't work as well. Like, if people are wondering about you and O'Connor. Yeah.
No, look, I wouldn't have been my favourite person at the time. But that happens.
Is it because he didn't rate you?
I don't know. It just seemed like different from Joe. I mean, Joe would probably be more cold logic and emotionless. Matt was probably a bit more the other way. So maybe it's just an Australian trait. I don't know, but it just I just hadn't been talked to by a coach like that ever. You said you felt like an academy kid. Yeah. Proper dressing down. Instead of a guy with, 40 odd caps at that stage, So there's a way of delivering your message, and I'm a firm believer in that. You can get your message across without resorting to that kind of style. So because you lose the player then as well as the thing. Oh yeah, I didn't want anything to do with him after that. To the point where you're, Ulster are half sniffing around and you're thinking, geez, I might just do this for my last year's central contract. So that's the damage it does, that kind of dressing down. Yeah, well, it just seems like, well, I'm finished here. If this is the way he feels, then I'm not going to be picked for the remaining 18 months of my contract.
Thanks a million for watching. If you want to subscribe, well, there's the button right there. If you want to see more videos, hit that down there.